Reading from one of these ancient books that's actually about lopping people's heads off with a samurai sword, it quotes, "To know the way of strategy is to know the way of many men, the carpenter, the merchant, and the scholar." All of this, including Warren Buffett's age-old wisdom, be fearful when everybody's getting greedy, and then get greedy when everybody's chickening out and running. This is actually a post from September 10th, roughly, inside VIP, where we're plotting the entire time while the rest of social media is like, go long, this is it. All those young kids in the Peach Fuzz Mafia, they're like, this is it. We're going to break out. We're like, yeah, we're shorting. This is going to ultimately come down. And while there are some technical analysis to this, and in order to get that really laser-like read, we are going to bring some charts in. But first off, we're going to start with the fundamentals because everybody likes getting into those. The basics of this pull down, the entire price crash is all revolving around the KRC20 inscription launch. As we know, what's happening there in its most simplistic form? Teams of coders from around the world have gathered to put JPEG memes on the Caspa blockchain. This is inscriptions. This is a step closer to smart contracts. This is opening the door for the KII to do loads of stuff with Caspa chain even before smart contracts get launched. And we'll get into some of that in a moment. As soon as those teams get their hands on Caspa, these guys are not crypto investors. There's nothing that says, oh, well, we're building on the Caspa chain because we love Caspa. It's actually the exact opposite. These guys are just pirates outrunning their own hustle within the crypto verse. The instant they got their hands on the Caspa, Nacho, Casper, the Goofy Kitten, the whole 9 yards. Those teams are instantly in real time selling the Caspa. So we're wondering, well, what caused this massive downside? There you have it. And take it from the people who put this all together. Of course, we have a super intelligent member inside our VIP known as artificial intelligence. Once you build a relationship with it, start working with AI, you're crushing. How hard are we crushing right now in VIP? What we're looking at right here is for the past 30 days. So since the FOMC meeting just took place, these are the top 100 performers. Of course, you got your Hoppy in here somewhere, and you got your Turbo. Not bad for the meme coin guys. Here's the catch. Inside our VIP, we have a list of projects above $10 million market cap. It's one of our watch lists. On this list, there are 8 projects. 8 projects we picked. Guess how many of them are in the top 100? 5. The lowest ranking ones was 120th. So it's really 4 out of 8 are in the top 100, 5 in the top 120. So these aren't projects that we picked that are seeing upside. Our projects are destroying the market hands down. Then to go even finer tooth, we do this system known as the 24-point checklist. So when we get something that we really like and we're going to lay some capital on it, now we start going even deeper down the rabbit hole. Out of our 24-point checklist picks, both of them in the top. One of them just recently got usurped by Hoppy, but it's right in the running. DEAI. What's been the ultimate rocket recently and one of these projects everyone's been talking about? Moonwell. Moonwell is ripping to the upside. It's on base. We had it on radar way back before anybody was talking about it. We were like, check out Moonwell. And we started scheming, looking for purchases, trying to catch the swing low as early as right around 20, 22 cents. And we, of course, we gobbled some up in this trading plan directly. Going down the rabbit hole, getting into details on how to scoop it up for the discount price. So everybody who bought there, earlier this morning, they were just doubled up off a project that's going to absolutely rock it. It's already on Coinbase, running the base network. So we are crushing it in VIP. On top of our Caspa price prediction. So this is the full scope. What's going on in the market? We've got the cutting edge. And I can hear you guys in the comments chatting up about Hoppy and stuff. What did we just talk about in the beginning of this? So right now, with Hoppy ripping to the upside, you're going to have to put together a detailed fundamental case for that to continue to break out. Right now, possibly some more cautionary tale with meme coins. There'll be other waves of price. There'll be a pullback eventually. And that's one of the things that we're super excited for inside our group is we understand the sectors and what's rocketing. And we're about to get down into some crunch time accounting and paperwork. We're going to start breaking down what is this? This is all the money in the world. And we're going to be tracking this $170 trillion in US, where it's at. And as we start to break this down, we actually start to solve the Japan carry trade because Japan is holding an unimaginable amount of these bonds listed way up here. So we're going to crunch down Satoshi secret and do everything to size up this bull run. And some of the reasons why right now, DeFi and artificial intelligence just took a rip to the upside. It's all based on FOMC data. Setting that poker table up, remember in the beginning, it's the poker table. And in these books about lopping people's heads off with samurai swords.
Every battle is won before it's ever fought.
They're always talking about know your opponent. Know what's going on with your opponent. Know the entire battlefield. And then we can step up and wreck it. So it was hard to kind of keep this secret because the whole time we were like, oh yeah, Kaspa's coming down to 12 and a half. And we'll get into this in detail. In VIP, we knew this the whole time. This is from like September 9th. And so everybody was like, oh, yeah, we're going long. And we were like, oh, no, man, these kids are going to get wrecked. And right now, in my opinion, they're just trying to save face by talking Kaspa down like, oh, it's Kaspa's fault. You guys know me. I always pick these meme coins. Kaspa's on track. Everything is following to a T. Q1, Michael Sutton will release the 10 BPS upgrade. And that's going to be epic. Epic. We're actually working hand in hand with the KII. They're dumping information on us, and they'll soon release the Gigawatt stablecoin white paper, which is going to be revolutionizing stablecoins, cutting into the BRICS nation, but we're getting into later videos. Let's get back on track and start talking about the Kaspa chart. So we understand the fundamentals of what went down here. And this chart that we're looking at may seem unfamiliar to a lot of you guys. This is known as the repeating trendline system. The massive difference between crypto and the stock market is obviously crypto has these halving and emission schedules. And as we know, these help create ripples on the Bitcoin chart every 4 years. The halving takes place. This blue arrow can be the halving. Boom, the halving's like right around here. Then we get upside. The other halving right here. Upside soon to follow as the supply restricts. The reason we're all here is because of these ripple effects. And this doesn't exist in the stock market. But in crypto, when you zoom in on that 4-year phenomenon we see on Bitcoin, you can see it on the day-to-day charts over and over again, starting with the x-axis. And this is going to be super important for gauging the absolute swing low, worst case scenario. Anyone who's not using the x-axis right now is doing it incorrectly. We have made the illest callouts for the past 500 days using this on Kaspa's chart, starting with when we bought, which is much correlated to the FOMC data. Right here, everybody was suddenly going long because the Fed's cut rates. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. The Fed, knowing our poker table, knowing the enemy and how they move, the Fed, the central bank, will work hand in hand with the investment banking class, your Jane Streets, your BlackRock. And when they give the signal, oh, by the way, this is the 1-year Treasury bond, this is the 2-year Treasury bond, and all of these heavily accounting type of documents we're about to review, they're going to show us the volume, how much cash money is in these bonds. Because what happens is when the Fed cuts these rates, it pushes, this is economics 101, all of this money out of the fiat fake money system right back onto the street to stimulate the economy. Look at this date. February 20th, 2020. Remember this. This is the 1-year Treasury bond. And then remember this other date, June 14th. Looking at Bitcoin chart right there. Boom. February 20th. 1 year after they cut rates, all that cash gets pushed out onto the street. And this isn't just Bitcoin. You can look at Tesla, GameStop, Lemonade. Any stock did the exact same thing as Bitcoin. Well, wait a minute. They don't have halvings. This is the true narrative. This is the hidden narrative underneath it. This is Satoshi's design. Notice how every time there's a halving event, guess when the last time the Fed cut rates was? Here. So they're cutting rates here. They're cutting rates right here, and then they're halving right next to it. 4 years later, their Bitcoin halvings here, and then the rate cut was here. And anybody who follows the stock market has already been hearing, very similar to the comment at the beginning, the FOMC is late for the party. And this is giving us loads of information about this bull market and how it will play off. The Fed could have went up there on September 18th, right before we saw this massive upside on the total 3, and they could have said, okay, we're only going to cut rates by 25 points, and that's it. And we're actually probably going to start raising them this summer. And the market would have tanked. It would have been a nightmare, and we'd be preparing for a blow off top. This is not the case, however. Exactly here, altcoin daily, crypto banter. They start saying, oh, it's altcoin season. Load your bags right now. Meanwhile, the central banks give the signal to the investment banking class, sell. Jane Street directly, looking at this massive bloodbath, that looks like it was no big deal. This was enormous. All of your legacy altcoins went into the flaming pit of red. It was really bad. They unloaded their entire Robinhood and or Webull account, Jane Street, because they're following the central bank's signals. Knowing this, looking over, I'll show you this other Caspa chart. This is all the FOMC dates for Caspa that have had massive effect. Look what was happening on Caspa. It's going sideways and up. Therefore, we instantly know. And this is the exact secret that we've been using to get out of our just watch list. Forget about the reports that we have on the biggest earners that are about to come and the biggest earners for the past 30 days. We've got 8 projects selected. 5 of them are in the top 120 best performers out of 10,000 picks. I mean, come on. Bullseye, we've nailed it. We know Satoshi's secret. I learned this in part from Roaring Kitty. I was in the GameStop trade. This is an add-on I had that's like 10 days before GameStop rocketed. And we'd originally hooked up with Roaring Kitty during the earning call 90 days before. It's all happening again, and this time it's crypto and Caspa. This is also part of the fundamentals as the KRC20 Casplex is stepping up, and they're saying, yeah, we're going to open up inscriptions. Meanwhile, The central banks are saying, stop buying bonds. We're going to lower the rate, start stimulating the economy. This is the perfect time for Caspa to go around and look for funding and development on chain, putting them way ahead of the curve compared to the last cycle. AVAX, Solana, Caspa's way ahead of schedule. Usually they wait till after the run-up. What do you mean the run-up? The run-up is February 20th. After the Fed pushes all this cash from the bond market, which we're about to study in detail, onto the street to stimulate the economy, that's when you'll get your growth in altcoins. Caspa's way ahead of the curve. They're already building on chain right now. So it's going to be a smoke show once it's lights, camera, action. An absolute smoke show. Yes, the legacy altcoins, your AVAX, the ones that were super hits from the last cycle. What we focus on inside this channel, new listing projects, because they have an even larger exponential growth factor. Make sure that you guys hit subscribe because we want to see content that actually gets it right. Anybody with a camera can make price predictions. We're the one that have been nailing the Caspa price over and over again. Helping boost this content to the top of the heap is good for your bags, and it's good for the entire Caspa community. Back to these repeating trend lines, back to the technical analysis. Ever since the initial break to the upside, as we can see right here, this is the X-axis resistance line. And you can clone it, and it will immediately replicate itself over and over again. Every single downslope is correlated directly to this. This recent downslope, we actually put it in yellow because it's active now, is much different because notice this white line. This is an augmentation of the wick-off breakout charting method. For any of you guys who have studied technical analysis in depth,
indicates that they are technically
you've heard
proficient.
of wick-off, you've heard of his breakout charting system. That's actually for stocks. But when we correlate it with this repeating trend line, we get way better results. You can take a look inside of VIP, inside of our Caspa leverage trading section right here, and scroll way back to buying Caspa cold storage right here at 11.5 and under, and leverage trading. 10x leverage at 12.25 and 13.3 as we're escaping the gravitational field. Once we get out of this, the movement to the upside, once we surpass this resistance. So that's where our resistance is coming from. Now, in order to find out when it's going to stop, we need to find out when support is going to be incoming. And that brings us to an entirely new repeating trend line. This is the y-axis. And we can see right here, the original y-axis actually started way back at 1/5 of a cent as Caspa ripped up to just under 1 penny. Now, originally back in April, a lot of us traders who were fortunate enough to be trading crypto at this time, we saw Caspa rip to the upside. But it was those of us who understood the repeating trend line system that had an extra level of insight to help them with their charting. So what we did, and you can scroll back and watch these old videos, was we cloned this trend line. And then we started looking for contact points where it would fit in. Now, originally, it formed this symmetrical triangle. The symmetrical triangle is the most common pattern on all of Caspa's charts. Looking inside of our pattern directory, this is very akin to owning a book on charting classical patterns, but those books, they're from 10 years ago. You're looking at a stock breakout from the 90s. You're like, yeah, this doesn't really help me. This is the exact same concepts, the exact same statistics, augmented with the repeating trendline system, which hasn't been published yet, but will be eventually as it's growing in the underground online right now. It's the symmetrical triangle that's actually the most common chart on all of Caspa. And most people don't recognize that. And right here, we have a symmetrical triangle that broke to the downside. Now, looking into technical analysis in detail, for any of you massive chart heads, you already know the symmetrical triangle is basically a 50-50. It can go either way. It just shows us that a move will happen at the apex. It doesn't necessarily tell us which sentiment it will break to. But this was directly as we were just talking about, the FOMC was raising rates. So obviously it's bearish. Obviously it's going to break to the downside. And we start looking for this y-axis repeating trend line originally discovered here to start collecting support on the candle. And we find it. And it holds well. Now you can go a layer deeper that we teach inside VIP and start adding these fib channels. And I'm going to show you this on Tau just so you realize this isn't some anomaly or some crackpot idea that just happens to work out on Caspa. This works out across the board. So we originally had this Fibonacci pitch all set up like this, and we were using the golden pockets and everything to help get more insight into when we were going to buy and when we were going to open leverage trades. I had a 1 million Caspa leverage trade opened right here at 33 cents. Can you imagine that? Looking at Tau, these are the two identical repeating Fibonacci pitches. Now, when we zoom in on this one, it's going to blow your mind. So we originally posted this in VIP right here on September 19th. It then came down, bounced off the golden pocket, came up, found resistance on this level, broke out, started bouncing directly off the top of the repeating trend line. You see how this is working? And now we're here. We were able to get massive insight in VIP because this is exactly what happened in the last gray to blue zone. And then look at these repeating trend lines. Downward price channel with gravitational field. So all we're looking at on Caspa is the same thing that we just saw on Tau. These are our downward price channels. So we had this Fibonacci pitch set up. And whenever you're setting a trend line, specifically of origin strength or a Fibonacci pitch, it's not a matter of opinion. This isn't art. There's a mathematically correct answer. And this is by counting the most points of contact. So clearly this Fibonacci pitch was the correct setup. We experimented with a lot of other versions. We figured this one had the highest count, correctly calculated. Look what happens later. We had this set up all the way back here in the middle of September. Boom. It starts catching Caspa, and we can see this exact y-axis. Look at this. It's this exact trend line that keeps repeating over and over again. Now, inside of our VIP group, we have videos explaining how to use this, and they correlate with the trading plans that are active. So as we're posting this plan to short Caspa, we're like, make sure you check out this video. Make sure you check out this macroeconomic post because we're looking into the FOMC data. Naked technical analysis makes me very angry because you've got to base it to fundamentals to really get the whole picture. You can't just go, oh, because the chart looks like this. You got to show the bigger picture of what's going on. And we can definitely do that. So now that we see the strength of these y-axes, and keep this in mind, a slight adjustment on how the angle you're setting this up for support is going to end up down the road here being as much as half of a cent in variation. So we want to get it precise. We're looking at this x-axis downtrend. We're already not making deep falls to the downside, which is good, but we're looking for an apex with the support on October 30th. Now, originally, we had thought that it would be a parallel from this, but we already wicked low below 12.5. And what's that showing us is a fundamental case that it's actually slightly more bearish. Why? Because of the success of the KRC20 launch. This is exactly dead on the money who's been selling Kaspa. It's the meme coin teams, including Shy, These guys, you're giving them Caspa, they're getting a payday. They are not investors in crypto or Caspa specifically. They are coders. They have college bills, family. They might have a real estate portfolio that they're investing in. They're not in Caspa for the long haul. They're just writing code. So we start seeing support here. Now, what if this support gives out? It's already looking like we're going to wick lower than the prior massive intersection. What if it keeps going lower? How low can it ultimately go? Following this trend line down lower, we get to this massive catalyst that's up and coming, and that's the next FOMC meeting paired with an election. It's going to be super bullish. The Fed's going to step up there and get everything going. So looking actually at the history of the chart, there is a chance we can wick below, but it won't be long lasting or support price development under that line. It will be something like this. Notice how right here we wicked above momentarily, keeping everything in balance. There could be a wick below, but it's not going to start to develop price activity underneath the y-axis trend line. It's going to get right back up in it and onto the show. Now, plotting the leverage trade when the breakout's going to take place is another story. But without a doubt, we're looking at when to start loading up cold storage. Of course, we've been keeping this a secret behind closed doors inside VIP for a while, but we're letting everybody know now, hey, everybody's starting to wimp out, but it's the investment banking class that won't. They get their checkbooks out during the FOMC meetings. They want to hear what Powell's going to say first, and then they start scooping up and buying. And in the big picture, we haven't seen massive downside. So right here on the main channel, on I think it was November 1st, we told everybody, load up on a 10x leverage trade on Caspa. It's about to break out. 72 hours later, massive rip to the upside. We start our VIP right here during this FOMC meeting. Massive break to the upside. Get everybody in on cold storage here, leverage trades here. And as we're about to get into the Bank of Japan details, I can show you this classic pattern directory. This is from a post made during that FOMC meeting when everything was about to go red. We hadn't made the connection to the Bank of Japan fundamentals yet, but just technical analysis naked, which we don't like to use, but we will in an emergency like this. We can see there was a clear head and shoulder pattern forming on Caspa. And as we look at the chart, it's always a head and shoulder. And this isn't like some geometry like the repeating trend lines. This is market psychology. You're seeing buyers have control. They make a new high and then they fail to make a consecutive third higher high, which means the sellers are taking over and there's a discount. And it's always these head and shoulder type patterns you can see. So it was very easy for us to recognize this repeating patterns and trends will tend to repeat, but they do not have to. Kaspa, which has been the leading #1 crypto for the past 2 years, just the most gains stacked on top of each other, has not even seen a 50% downside from its all-time high wick. Tau, Sui, some of these other blue chip projects that you will hear people that are trying to save face from their Kaspa mistake. Meanwhile, we were shorting, they were going long. Those got cut into like a fifth, a sixth, not 1/6 off, like 70% off, like a total dumpster fire. So correlating that with massive strength, I'm not making that connection personally. Jason, it's on the 7th. 48 hours prior to the election results. That's the next FOMC. Now, before we start going into this accounting, let's take a look at the data up here. And part of what we connect with every single trading plan is we trying to tie it all in with macroeconomics and the FOMC. So there's a massive additional value here. Not only are we picking all the best crypto projects, not only are we charting Caspa correctly, but you'll also finally get to watch financial TV and know what they're talking about. You can be like, yeah, you guys got to be quiet. I'm working here. And just turn the tube on and watch these guys go. Like inside of macroeconomics. As the bull run is unfolding, and what we can see about the bull run right now, looking into the fine-tuned stuff like the unemployment and the jobs rate, normally crypto traders will say, oh, well, that doesn't apply to crypto. That's only for the stock market. We don't actually buy stuff from the warehouse. We don't need to track supply chain management. Yes, we do. Because the only reason anybody in the world is paying attention to this stuff is because they want to figure out what the FOMC is going to do, what this guy's going to say when he steps up to the podium. Therefore, they can say, well, if Powell's going to cut rate hard and hold it down for a long period of time, now I know DeFi and AI is going to absolutely explode. The cards are already dealt.
Battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it.
The cards are already dealt, as we can see right here in the federal funds rate. So this was their prior meeting, and they were not as... They weren't creating quite a bullish market in the prior meeting. They're stepping up to it now. And depending on what they say on November 7th, they can absolutely floor it. And we've been looking into inside VIP, the employment number, the wage growth and stuff like that, because as those numbers change, like unemployment's solid right now, but if it starts to become more of an issue, the Fed needs to step on the gas. What they're doing with all of these bonds in their charts, what this federal yield is about, it's often correlating with how much it costs to borrow money. But it's also what they're doing with all the cash that they printed. So they've been printing money nonstop ever since World War II when they switched from the gold standard to the fiat. And the rest of the globe followed suit with the United States. They ultimately did it because they wanted to defraud France on some loans. Fairly shady stuff, but now was the time to kickstart everything. So they ran the debt through the ceiling during a massive catalyst like World War II, and then they just switched the entire world of money. They're like, oh yeah, it's not based on gold anymore. It's based on whatever we say. Which is insane if you really think about it. And I totally feel bad for anybody who doesn't recognize that this is the most important aspect of crypto trading. Stock traders are always paying attention to the earnings report. This is cryptocurrency. It's in the title. Hence, our logo is the symbol of money, because we're the only guys in crypto world that seem to be paying attention to this or know enough about it in the first place. And it's starting to gain popularity. It's not like we have a patent on using the FOMC. It's on every television channel. The reason why the majority of crypto social media doesn't cover it is because the last cycle was so bullish. They're printing money. It's literally coming out of thin air. Meanwhile, the FOMC has the federal funds rates on 0, which means Jane Street, BlackRock, they're not buying bonds. They're buying Wall Street. This is how it works. This is how they control inflation. This is economics 101. So right now, even though they've printed insane amounts of money, it doesn't matter. And we're about to do some accounting and figure out how much are these guys holding and how much is out there altogether. That way we can size up the bull market by analyzing how much last cycle. Bitcoin got $1 trillion. The total amount of money during the last cycle was 100 trillion. You're starting to follow how we're going to formulate this equation, and we're going to piece together how big this bull market is, as well as prove exactly why DeFi and AI is ripping to the upside right now. It's all because the distribution phase is going to be huge. What makes a huge distribution phase? This. Zero interest rates for a long period of time. What did the Fed do? They just changed their mind from not having a really good bull market to not knowing what was going on in 2027 to suddenly being like, yeah, we're going to cut rates even more, taking more cash out of this bond market where they're playing monopoly money. Just because they printed it doesn't mean you can get it. They're just stashing it. They're hiding it. And this is all directly from these ancient books about cutting people's heads off. You got to know who's at your poker table and how they're playing the game, how they're working together. All of social media just got hoodwinked by the teams. With the KRC20 launch, I just think they did not put two and two together and realize these meme coin teams aren't investing in Caspa. They're not your friend. They want your Caspa. And then they're just going to sell it and cash out right now. They're not investors. End of story. So hopefully, and this is going to make it way easier to trade, the Fed's just going to step on the gas and start cutting rates faster in 2025. They're already planning on taking 1 full point down. Now, this alone gives them a varied amount of options. They can come in quarter one and lop the full point right there. 2 meetings, it's over. Or they can spread it out more, which will make it much more difficult for us to trade. But based on our analysis on wage growth, which has to do with unemployment, which is why, while they're playing this monopoly banker game, this is to stop inflation, because all that printing money obviously makes inflation. They're just going to hold it all. They're like, yeah, we printed it, but you don't have it. It's in bonds. So we'll just pay yield to the investment banking class and get that money off the street. Well, eventually, this starts to dry up the economy and it hurts jobs. The prices in warehouses starts to go up, supply chain management. It becomes a conundrum. And then they have to start giving more money back out on the street. This is the way fiat works. This is economics 101. So the best news we can hear from Powell and the Fed during the November meeting is that they're going to cut rates hard. They're probably going to do 25 points at the next meeting. 50 would be amazing. And it would kickstart a massive bull run to the upside. And we can see that there's an excess amount of cash based on the Bitcoin chart and the total 3. Historically, rate cuts are the showing of an economy that's imploding on itself. Rate cuts throughout the entire history since 1970 have been sideways and bearish. But for whatever reason, this time, this is the last one that they had just in crypto. And you can go back in the stock market and look it up in the 80s, the 2000s, the 90s. Every time they cut rates, it's down and sideways. These were the last rate cuts on the total 3. Same picture on Bitcoin. Down and sideways right here. These jagged downward lines. So recently, it's an anomaly. And all that this is showing is just like in the Venezuela stock market, right before their fiat went into flames, they just printed too much money. And it's this clear sign that this whole system's about to explode. Tinfoil hat time, that's why they're always preparing for these monster wars, because they need something to flip the switch and change over from the current fiat system, just like they did at World War II when they went from gold to fiat. Now they're going to go from fiat to blockchain. We got some epic videos coming up this weekend. We're going to be exploring BRICS and the KII. We have exclusive information from the KII to this channel. One of the Kaspa team members joined our VIP to check out what we were putting down, and they're like, yeah, this guy's legit, work with him. So keep that in mind. And we're going to be dropping massive insight into about BRICS and what's going on with that. While this is on the top of my head, before we get into these altcoin stuff, look at this. No, that's not it. Edgar. Here we go. This is the Bitcoin ETF filing. So this is a lead into this weekend's videos, which are going to be epic investigative journalist stuff. This is like 100 pages. So bear with me while we scroll down to 83. On page 83 of this, we can read this, and this just shows BlackRock has now taken total control of Bitcoin. Some of the Bitcoin maxis, Bitcoin University, great channel, he covered this. In the event of a fork on the Bitcoin blockchain, the Bitcoin custodian and prime broker may, in sole discretion, determine whether or not to support. What this clause is saying is that BlackRock can now fork Bitcoin, your ASICs, your bags become void. They'll airdrop you new Bitcoin. And the reason that they're doing this, obviously to have control over Bitcoin, they were always talking it down. But once they cut Nord Stream 2 off, you guys remember that news? All of a sudden, Nord Stream 2 explodes. Russia took all that energy and they started mining Bitcoin with it. They turned right to their neighbors in China and they just hooked the ASICs up. They're now the #2 powerhouse in Bitcoin mining in the world. But BlackRock has their hand over a button that can completely decouple their operation from all value, which is insane. Okay, so everybody's understanding Satoshi's secret. When he built it, he paralleled the halving event to work with the Fed. So as this bond money gets out, Bitcoin's like a sponge, just absorbing. What we're doing in this video is leaving you guys breadcrumb trail inside VIP. Remember, we got just a watch list that we have, our sole watch list, 8 picks on it. 5 of them for the past 30 days are in the top 120 out of 10,000. What? That's how spot on incorporating FOMC data into our charts is. Because what we want is this money, which we're about to size up, to go directly into our bags. That's part of our vetting system, the 24-point checklist, which works hand in hand with the 84 copy-paste questions for AI. There was a smart younger kid who joined up in our group who was in VIP, and he would answer everybody's questions using artificial intelligence, getting one step closer to mastery of crypto. So we have a lot of guides on how to do that. Back to the Caspa chart. So in the worst case scenario, we might get more downside until the FOMC meeting, which leads us using the x-axis repeating trend line to like 11.5, right, on November 7th. That is the worst case scenario. Meanwhile, this support on the y-axis established originally off of this breakout here from a 1/5 of a penny to a full penny, this exact repeating trend line that's also resistance on the top, this is going to catch price. And there's a massive apex on October 30th. Great question about Max Kaiser. So we broke the story. Max Kaiser was on InfoWars. They actually have some decent financial content. This was a month ago, I think. And what he came up with was, he says, I'm going to give you a prediction on Bitcoin right now. And he said, Bitcoin is going to move into the energy sector. Max Kaiser, Whitney Webb, the guy from MicroStrategies, Michael Saylor, these guys, the spokespeople of Bitcoin, we've got to remember how ahead of the curve we are. Nobody's trading crypto. People are afraid of it. They don't know how to touch it. I get guys coming over from the stock market into VIP all the time that just want like somebody to look over their shoulder while they're opening accounts and using cold storage wallet, even though we have way more detail than that to get into. It's new. Nobody's doing it yet. It's the narrative that they're using is Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. Meanwhile, we know connecting all the dots, you got to read in between the lines. When Max Kaiser says the next stage in evolution for Bitcoin is energy sector, to not directly connect that to Caspa, I think is a mistake. As Paul Von Sant, this guy is the Warren Buffett of the energy sector. More than that, he invented it. Warren Buffett just participated. This guy actually invented energy trading. He's the man behind carbon credits. Marathon Digital is working so closely with this guy in the region where they operate. They just opened up a new 250 megawatt or gigawatt or 250 mining in the Middle East, rubbing shoulders with these guys. The gigawatt coin is going to be carbon negative, starting off with carbon neutral and then moving down. This is the front line. This is going to be almost like the next lockdown scenario is going to be based around climate. Of course, it's going to start at the upper echelon and then roll down. But in another live stream video, we are breaking out. They have wallets in Hong Kong right now, just like recycling in the 80s. You can get 5 cents when you bring a tin can in Hong Kong. They're doing that across the board. And your cell phone is your own personal recycling center. So every time you're bringing paper and cardboard back, you're getting tokens. It's already going down. Elon Musk bought Twitter to create a WeChat USA. For anybody who doesn't have exposure to overseas in China, there's an app called WeChat that you can't survive in China without. You actually have to have it to live. You can't get a cab without it. You use it to buy dinner, go to the movies. Anything you do, you pay and use WeChat. Elon Musk's vision for Twitter, now X, is to create a WeChat. And of course, just like on the Google Wallet, they have a slot for your COVID-19 vaccination. They're going to have a slot for your climate control. And this is all driving directly into Caspa. It's a huge narrative. It's out of control big. And we'll get into those details in the next upload this weekend when we're going to cover BRICS Nation in depth. So the distribution phase is now channeled. So here's the kicker. This is the additional information that we've gotten from the FOMC. For one, Powell came out with his late cuts and he's late. He's late. This is telling us that the peak is going to be delayed. We've all heard that slogan. It's 500 days after the Bitcoin halving. We debunked that in a prior video. How did we debunk it? By just jumping over to the stock market. We can just look at Tesla, the stock, and it peaks. There's the peak. Where was the Tesla halving? That's what caused Bitcoin to run up, right? It was the halving. Okay, what about, where's the GameStop? GameStop, same thing. 20 days apart. I was actually in the GameStop trade. That's January 13th. That's an add-on. It peaked on January 28th. I was chatting with Hello Kitty back here at the original earnings report right before, noticing the exorbitant short sale. And he actually has a degree. He went to college for this stuff, and he was schooling everybody into this massive bubble of bond money that we still have to get into the bond money to see how big this bull market's going to get. And he was giving us a date. He was saying, yeah, by Valentine's Day, we're going to be all rich. He's like 30 days from Valentine's Day. That's what he used to say. How did he know? Because he knew how to read this chart. And we teach people this in depth. This is a breadcrumb trail into VIP. Send me your portfolio. We're correlated to the 3 phases of the market. Get you started. I'll send you on a treasure hunt of information to look at as our call outs keep rolling out. This is Well, which is a hit. Everybody's talking about it right now. It's on Coinbase already. This gives you exposure to the Base network. Originally got on our radar here when we posted our watch list. We started looking for purchases here and we ended up buying in here. Our last purchase on it was a double up. So we were planning this whole time for it to come back to 30 cents and buy it there. And of course it did exactly that. Was bouncing down, giving us opportunities. This is going to rip. This looks a lot like Caspa did back here. See this massive breakout into a cup formation? So this has still got runway. To gauge the size of the incoming onslaught of cash, it's going to be huge. We can start to troll through and look actually at this cash money. Who is buying these bonds and how much cash do they actually have? And we can see right away the United States, they have more than everybody else. They've got, these numbers are probably non-readable on your screen. The United States has, it says 55,000, whatever billion, so 55 trillion. The next largest holder is China, or Europe as a whole with 24. And then China. This is another pulling up the accounting. Who owns all these bonds? Japan has a massive amount of treasury securities. It's on the top of the list. This is Japan right here. Country, Japan. They own a ton of treasury securities, these bonds. So that's how the carry trade actually unrolled. That's neither here nor there. What we're looking at is how much cash. So just since this year started, they've been trading $1 trillion worth of these. No, 21 trillion. Here's a figure that we need. In 2023, it's 140 trillion. All day, that's the amount of money in the world. $140 trillion. And it's increasing roughly 6% exponentially. So as the bull run comes to a conclusion, 2025, 2026, we're saying 160, 170. Now, what does that have to do with Bitcoin and all of these other assets? Bitcoin, just under 60,000, got 1% of all the money in the world. That's a pretty good job. So congratulations to Bitcoin for absorbing all that cash. And we know why. Why? Because of Satoshi's secret, right? The halving goes parallel with the bond unlock. So Bitcoin's always, every 4 years, Powell's stepping up and he's going, I'm going to cut rates right now. Meanwhile, Satoshi's going, I'm going to issue the halving right now. And they keep going side by side. The last time this happened was here. Rate cuts here. Having here. Now it flipped around because Powell's late. The having here, the cutting here. This means that the peak of Bitcoin is going to be late as well. So instead of 1 year, it can be, 14 months or so, push back farther. We have to see what the Fed does. They haven't released all their information. There's another FOMC meeting coming. Plus, we got to see what they do in Q1 of February. It's going to be huge. So Bitcoin got 1%. And its popularity has increased significantly as well with the Bitcoin ETFs. Did you guys know that Arc Block was funded by one of the same VCs as Caspa? We'll get into that in a second. So we see Bitcoin taking 1% of 100 trillion. It could probably get 2% because of its increased popularity with the ETFs, everybody on top of it in this up and coming market. And we know how much cash is going to be out there. So it's just going to be an enormous bull run. And you can use these historic snapshots to get an idea and an expectation for how well different projects will do in comparison with Bitcoin. That's how everybody keeps going up with a $10 Kaspa. They're looking at how much Cardano, XRP, Polkadot, BNB, Litecoin, Chainlink, how much did these guys get out of Bitcoin's total market cap? So if Bitcoin's going to hit 3 trillion, that's 150,000. It could easily do more than that. It could be $250,000 Bitcoin. To just get 3% of that. And the average on these altcoins is somewhere between 10 at the high range and 2 at the low. For these layer ones, anywhere in that's $5 to $10 for Caspa. What's throwing a lot of people off is they're using the power law and they're not factoring in FOMC meetings because the dates are all pushed back now because Powell just did a flip on when he was supposed to cut rates. He should have cut rates earlier. It would be a totally different market. So these guys right here, Yes Capital, they seed funded both Caspa and Arc Block, as well as a handful of other projects. See, they were involved with Quant, Zilquilla, Arc Block, Bonk. These guys are very underground. They're very tied up. Reserve rights. This is a huge narrative project. They're very tied up with Caspa. See that? The central banks in Europe, which just happens to be almost in the KII's backyard. Right there. Boom. Yes, having utility is extremely important. And as this bull run kicks off, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, get a bag of meme coins. Wouldn't we want to get a utility coin that allows for swapping on meme coins? These dates that we pulled up on this history is to get the most peak price for projects like Uniswap, Sushi Swap. What are the Uniswap and Sushi Swaps of today? Aerodrome, Moonwell, very similar narratives, Pancake Swap. And there's more up and coming projects too. Just remember this, before you go chasing down Hoppy on this massive green candle, there's going to be a Pancake Swap and a Sushi Swap on Caspa's chain. There's going to be loads of new projects up and coming. And speaking of gem hunting, we've got 2 that aren't even listed yet in 24-point report form. One of them is Polychain Capital's ultimate hit. Of course, they worked hand in hand with Yes Capital, seed funding Caspa. And then the other one is the #1 best GameFi project. Retail's fine. This is more of a global issue. This is more upper echelon, the 1% of the 1% having their own poker game. Like when you're sitting at a table and there's guys with like $100,000 behind and you brought 500 and they're making it $100 to go every hand. They're playing their own game and you're just kind of sitting down waiting to pick them off. That's what they're doing. This isn't going to affect retail, but something else is. So once gold started getting traded, instead of just the value of gold, being directly shown by its ticker, it's now extremely watered down. Because as people are investing in gold, they have a multitude of different vehicles. You can, for starters, buy a gold mining company. You can buy these gold ETFs, all these gold holding stocks. And all that's doing is watering down the actual price of gold. If you were to remove all the financial instruments holding gold, even if you kept the gold mining ones, but just all of the, oh, you can own gold with a 3x leverage, or it would be significantly more valuable. And so what BlackRock is doing is they're getting in front of Bitcoin and absorbing the value, because the ETF is just stage one. As the popularity of crypto increases, the more financial products with Bitcoin in them that they can give you, the more they will, diluting the value over time.
Good question.
We've seen Caspa on television in Eastern Europe 400 days ago. Because of the power players that are lining up with Caspa, once everything's ready, after Michael Sutton is done, after Jonathan Saplinski sets up, releases the smart contracts, it's on. It's a breakthrough technology. It's going to be the new thing on the street. This is the only project that can really push its way into the top 3 out of anything. The narrative, nothing has changed. Everything is running as smooth as ever. I'll give you an example of a narrative suddenly changing with DEAI. So this is one of the absolute biggest gainers over the past 30 days. It was in the top 10 just a while ago. Right now, Hoppy, it slowed down a bit, so Hoppy just passed it, but where is it? There it is. So even now, after cooling off, it's still in the top 25. This was my first side bag. So once we had loaded enough in Caspa, we started diversifying into AI. Something had gone on with the vesting, and they had to delay when they were going to do a particular token release. So they're stalling this. The validator unlock was supposed to happen way back here, and they've delayed it into 2025. That's something major that's changing. With Caspa, there's nothing that changed. So this discount, there's no reason to be like, maybe we ought to wait. This is like pig out time. This is like we are go launch. And we just gave everybody the fundamentals of the KRC20 teams, and they are having a great job selling Caspa down. But we know when it's going to turn around, and we are extremely close in price and in date. Charting the y-axis, the when always gives us more accurate. Price is a much more of a wild card factor. Pinpointing the exact date, much more easy, particularly when we start incorporating FOMC meetings in, because this is when the big dogs are going to start moving their money around. Now we can get a way more insight into everything. So, to sum everything up, we've got nothing to worry about. Caspa's been moving, looking at the total 3, completely opposite than the rest of the altcoin market this entire time. It's on its own schedule. It's got a very fast emission. Pretty soon, all the Caspa is going to be out there. The majority of it is already. As we can see, from February 20th to March 30th, Caspa was actually right here. So altcoins were running to the upside, but Caspa was trapped in a downside. That's February 20th. So this has happened before. This is old news right here. Caspa starts dumping. Look what the altcoins do. Supersonic jump. And then the altcoins dump until Right here, they start moving sideways. So it's downside to sideways. August 7th. Oh yeah, Caspa goes up. So it's like Caspa's moving in the opposite direction. What is this? April 10th to August 7th. Sure. Right there. We get some sideways movement on Caspa. April 10th to August. So the altcoins down, Caspa up. It's already happened. Right now, Caspa's going down. The altcoins are going up. Can they both move up at the same time? Absolutely. Patterns and trends tend to repeat. They don't have to. We understand exactly why Kaspa's selling off, and we knew this was going to happen. So did artificial intelligence way back, a long time ago. A lot of people on social media, they're feeling the fear right now. A lot of people just made a mistake. They had an error. They were getting greedy when everybody was pigging out. And that's exactly what people that are looking at Hoppy right now. If you got in Hoppy a bit earlier, congratulations. I mean, it is a meme coin, so there's no telling what it could do, but there's other opportunities executing patience that you can catch on the low right now that are going to rip. And we'll be discussing those narrative inside VIP. So down the road here, this FOMC meeting surpasses, we get into the new year, all of a sudden, we bought the projects that are at the low right now because we understand the connection from the central banks to the Fed, to the altcoin market, the distribution phase. We put all the puzzle pieces together. There's no other way that in our watch list of 8, we have 5 in the top 120 since this FOMC meeting, unless we've really stumbled upon something, which we have. This is a decade of trading. I was a day trader. We'd play poker all night and then day trade in the morning. It's like 4 in the morning in Vegas is when they start the early rounds of Wall Street. Crypto's way easier. So yeah, incorporating all this stuff together, Kaspa's fine. Great discount right now. Of course, you can wiggle around, stick and move, and load your bag up for everybody just getting into the market. And we're going to discuss this weekend, BRICS Nation and the KII. What's coming up for Warp Core and Gigawatts, as well as we'll go through these artificial intelligence projects and DeFi, why they're ripping to the upside so much right now. It's going to be an amazing bull market. The amount of cash that we're going to make, this is like the one. This is the one. There's so much money coming in, going through all of these. It's like, wow. I'll have to chime in on this one because there really isn't a huge value in the cult-like mentality. And this is just a historical fact. I can tell you because back here, when Caspa was dumping in May, we were short on AVAX, waiting to load our bag up. Everybody else had gone long on that FOMC rate cut right here. We went short on AVAX and we got a massive payday from it. It was pretty epic. I've actually got that right here. This is a pretty sick trade. So we started with $12,500. And because we were so tuned in to the stages of the market and that the FOMC was about to rug everybody, we shorted with high leverage and we layered in. So it wasn't like we were really risking all of our bankroll right there. We layered in over time, shorted on AVAX, and ultimately got a double up. which we then just popped right into Caspa on the low. This was our first double up on Caspa. So we got the AVAX short, a multiplier trade. This is a strategy we talk about inside VIP. If you guys are right fresh in the market right now, or you have some cash to distribute, you might want to try a multiplier trade, do a quick swing trade in something that's scheduled for a massive upside in the next 45 to 90 days. Pull that out, and stick it into Caspa. So this was our first double up under 4 cents. As we always do and teach, we got in at the FOMC meeting, which was way down here. Under 2. The FOMC meetings, this is a great catalyst, just like earnings reports. We got a question here somebody has about Turbo. Let's see, or it could be a statement too. Speedy on ETH is the next Turbo Junior. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to have to check this one out. Okay. Speedy. 62 people on the watch list. How many people are on the Twitter? That's something that we'll check out. Let's take a look at the chart. Okay. Originally released in April, saw some downside, likely from token unlocks early, and it has been moving ultimately sideways, and then it started beefing up around the FOMC, which is good. Let's zoom in here. There we go. Got some upside. Let's take a look and see if they're on chainbroker.com. This is one of the tools that we use, and part of our new listing strategy. Like back when artificial intelligence was the hot narrative, you could pick any project that had AI in it and it would rip to the upside. They don't have their tokens listed, but often you can correlate with, you can see how well these are advertised on this. So this is on Phantom, which is unique within itself. Phantom, during the last bull market, had a ton of DeFi activity. A lot of this degen DeFi, like staking for earnings, nodes as a service. Phantom got some action. So this guy's dropping a plug for Speedy. There you go. You got your plug. But back to our picks, our 24-point reports and our watch list of 8, all of which are in the top 100, which is weird, or 5 out of 8 are all in the top 100 for the past 30 days, which is strangely accurate, don't you think? It's really creepy. So definitely worth checking out VIP to see how we do it. You get your hands on these 24-point reports, all the trading plans, videos, printouts. It's packed. Super good value. And this is Uber Eats for 2. You get yourself Uber Eats and you rent a movie. Instead, make some hot ramen noodles and jump in VIP. You'll thank me after you did it. Because we got a lot of action up and coming. Speedy on ETH, he says. So I guess this runs on multiple different chains. Okay. Yeah. They have it on Phantom and ETH, I guess, both. Obviously, you want to go with ETH. For Spectral, okay, this is the wrong Speedy. Is it the right logo? No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this is the correct logo. No, it's not. Okay. It's not listed on Coin Rank. Let's see if it's listed on Coin Market Cap. Here we go. Yeah. Bro, I can't even find your project. I keep finding this one. So This one is the one that keeps coming up. These guys are stealing the show. And this actually ties into a lesson. When there is a project that has some thunder, you'll often see a lot of commie cats and imitators. Yeah. Well, I don't care about your meme coin. There it is. He thinks it's good. I can't even find it. I probably wouldn't buy it at all. How do you like that? I think it's probably terrible. If it's not on Coin Market Cap and Crypto Rank, you're not going to get me $100 to tell my audience to buy something that I think is dog crap. Don't buy Speedy. Don't advertise dumpster fires on my show. Wrong channel, dude. Wrong channel. How's that? Awesome. All right, guys. So we're just keeping it real. Caspa's getting towards the bottom. A lot of stuff going on. Check out the VIP. We're always keeping it real, always crushing the markets. This weekend, huge breakdown of BRICS, the KII. You're not going to want to miss it. Thanks for checking out this video. We will catch you on the next one.